In the year 2000, the Outboard Marine Corporation holds a third of the world's outboard motor sales. It owns 13 boat-building companies. It operates factories in 12 American cities and subsidiaries in 6 countries. It is a multi-billion-dollar Fortune 500 corporation. Its brands, Johnson and Evinrude, are the most recognized names in recreational boating on Earth. On December 22, 2000, OMC files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection with $800 million in debt and lays off 7,000 employees. One engine did this. One model rushed to market, untested in the field, pushed into production because the company needed it to work. It did not work, and 93 years of American manufacturing collapsed in under 3. Before the outboard motor, the only way across a lake for an ordinary person is an oar. For thousands of years, the rowboat is the small vessel of the common citizen. Sail requires rigging and skill. Steam requires a boiler, coal, and a hull large enough to carry both. The internal combustion engine arrives in the 1880s and 90s, but it is heavy, stationary, bolted to factory floors and workshop walls. Nobody has made it portable enough, light enough, or dependable enough to clamp to the stern of a 14-foot rowboat and simply go. The idea is obvious. The execution is not. Every fisherman on every lake in America knows what it feels like to row against a headwind for an hour to reach a spot he could see from shore. Every vacationer who rents a cottage on a spring-fed lake in the Adirondacks or the Northwoods knows the arithmetic of the oar. 2 miles out means 2 miles back, and the wind does not care that your arms are finished. Millions of Americans who fish, vacation, and work on water are still pulling oars in 1906. In that summer, on Okauchee Lake in Wisconsin, a Norwegian immigrant named Ole Evinrude rows 5 miles to shore and back in 90-degree heat to fetch ice cream for his fiancée, Bess Cary. The ice cream melts, the idea does not. Ole Evinrude is born April 19, 1877, in Hunndalen, in the Vardal municipality of Norway, about 60 miles north of Oslo. He is the oldest son. His father immigrates to America, and the family settles in Cambridge, Wisconsin, near Lake Ripley, in 1882. Ole grows up on the farm, but is drawn to machines, not soil. At 16, he moves to Madison to work in machine shops and studies engineering on his own. He apprentices as a machinist in Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, and Chicago. He co-owns a pattern-making shop with a young man named Arthur Davidson, who will go on to found Harley-Davidson. In 1900, he co-founds a custom engine firm called Klemick and Evinrude in Milwaukee. He courts Bess Cary, a business-savvy woman who keeps his books. They marry in 1906, and the Okauchee Lake picnic is already behind them, the seed already planted. Why not attach one of his small engines to a rowboat? He works day and night. His health deteriorates. Rheumatism leaves him unable to stand. A drawing board is brought to his bed. In 1907, he completes the first design: a single-cylinder, 2-stroke, detachable rowboat motor. 1.5 horsepower, 62 pounds of iron and brass. A crank on the flywheel to start the engine. A vertical crankshaft, a drive shaft with direction-changing gears housed in a submerged lower unit. He tests it on the Kinnickinnic River near Milwaukee. It works. Bess sees the commercial potential immediately. At their kitchen table, she writes the advertising copy that will define the company. Don't row, throw the oars away, use an Evinrude motor. A friend borrows the motor for a Sunday outing on Okauchee Lake and returns the next day with cash for 10 orders from strangers who saw it run. The ad appears in Milwaukee newspapers. Inquiries flood in so fast they hire 6 stenographers to handle the mail. The principle is set now, and it will hold for nearly a century. The engine must be portable enough to carry by hand, simple enough to start without a mechanic, and reliable enough to trust when you are miles from shore. In 1909, Ole sells 25 outboard motors in a single day, his entire inventory at $62 each, and takes orders for 10 more. Evinrude Motors of Milwaukee is in business. By 1911, partnering with Chris Meyer, the president of Meyer Tugboat Lines, they form the Evinrude Detachable Rowboat Motor Company. They sell 2,090 motors that year, 4,650 the next. By 1913, the factory employs 300 workers and produces 9,412 motors. Evinrude is a worldwide name, but Bess's health deteriorates, and in 1913, Ole sells his share to Meyer for approximately $137,000. He signs a 5-year non-compete. He takes Bess on a road trip through the South, then cruises the Great Lakes in a 42-foot cruiser he designed himself. He cannot stop inventing. During the forced hiatus, he develops the LTO, the Evinrude Light Twin Outboard, twin cylinder, 3 horsepower, 48 pounds, made of aluminum instead of iron and brass, twice the power at less weight than anything on the market. He offers it to Meyer, who turns it down, fearing it will make his existing product obsolete. In 1920, Ole and Bess found the Elto Outboard Motor Company with their remaining savings of $35,000. The first product hits the market in June of 1921. Competition intensifies. The Johnson Motor Company, founded in 1921 in South Bend, Indiana, enters with its first outboard engine in 1922 and takes the market lead by 1926 with a motor weighing 100 pounds, costing $190, capable of 16 miles per hour. Johnson posts a net profit of $433,000 in 1927. Evinrude posts $25,000. Elto posts $30,000. But Ole keeps building. In 1929, the merger comes. Evinrude Motors, Elto, and Lockwood Motor Company combine to form the Outboard Motors Corporation. Ole Evinrude is president. Stephen Briggs of Briggs & Stratton is chairman. Headquarters moved to Waukegan, Illinois. 3 engine lines under one roof. Elto for the thrift buyer, Evinrude for prestige, Johnson for special features. Operations are largely independent. Each division awards its own contracts. Even the export sales are handled differently. Johnson tends to sell directly to dealers. Evinrude routes most sales through distributors first. It is cooperation, but it is also rivalry, and the rivalry will define the company for the next 70 years. Then the ground disappears. The stock market crashes in October of 1929. The Depression nearly kills the young company before it can find its footing, but it survives. The 1930s bring new innovations: the 5-horsepower Lightwind Imperial, the 9.2 horsepower Light 4 Imperial, the first hooded powerheads with protective aluminum coverings. And then the founders are gone. Bess Evinrude dies on May 13, 1933. She is 48 years old. Ole follows on July 12, 1934, at 57. Their son Ralph, 26, takes over running the company. In 1935, OMC launches the Sportsman, a 25-pound, 1.5 horsepower motor that sells for $55. It is the first outboard motor to utilize reed valves. In 1936, the board of directors formally elects Ralph president. That same year, OMC merges with the Johnson Motor Company. The practice of badge engineering begins. Johnson and Evinrude engines are essentially identical under the cowl. same internal components, same service parts, interchangeable in every way that matters. Johnson is traditionally white or gray. Evinrude is blue. Two competing brands from the same factory dominating dealership floors. The strategy works. Ralph Evinrude expands the product line into boats, lawnmowers, snowmobiles, and chainsaws. He collaborates with Briggs and Stratton and expands operations worldwide. During his 55-year career in the family business, he elevates OMC from a Depression-era engine maker to a Fortune 500 corporation. He plays an active role in the development of modern, fully enclosed engine styling, noise silencing, electric starting, and remote controls. By 1982, when Ralph retires as chairman, OMC employs more than 9,000 people in operations across the globe. Ralph dies on May 21, 1986, at 78, in Stuart, Florida. That same year, OMC sets a company record, $1.2 billion in revenue. By 1988, the company has 14,000 employees in 28 U.S. plants and 6 international facilities. And then the slow unraveling. The boat market peaks in 1988 and collapses. OMC begins buying boat makers to create captive customers for its outboard engines, starting with 5 companies acquired between December of 1986 and February of 1987 for $120 million. More follow. By the time the spending stops, OMC owns 13 boat brands, but cannot manage the sprawl. Japanese competitors arrive in force. Honda introduces 4-stroke outboards to the American market in 1964. Yamaha follows. Mercury Marine, backed by the Brunswick Corporation, presses from the other side. A joint venture between Yamaha and Brunswick produces a low-cost engine called Mariner, giving Brunswick a product at both the high and low ends of the market, and leaving OMC sandwiched in the middle. Between 1990 and 1993, the company suffers losses totaling $440 million. It sells Cushman for $150 million. It sells Lawn Boy to the Toro Company for $85 million. And beneath all of this, a toxic legacy. From the early 1960s to the early 1970s, OMC's Waukegan plant uses hydraulic fluids containing polychlorinated biphenyls, PCBs, in its aluminum die casting operations. The fluids are flushed down floor drains and flow straight into Waukegan Harbor and Lake Michigan. An estimated 700,000 pounds of PCBs contaminate the soil. 300,000 pounds contaminate the harbor sediment. In 1983, the site becomes a Superfund cleanup site. In 1989, the U.S. Department of Justice orders OMC to fund a trust for environmental remediation. The company contributes $20 to $25 million for harbor cleanup in 1992 and 1993. The financial drain is relentless. In 1995, with losses mounting and the product line aging, OMC licenses a high-pressure direct fuel injection technology from a small German engineering company called FICHT GmbH, based in Kirchseon, Germany. In 1996, the EPA finalizes first-time emission standards for outboard engines, requiring a 75% reduction in hydrocarbon emissions. Traditional carbureted 2-stroke engines, the technology that OMC has built and sold for nearly 90 years, cannot meet the standard. 20 to 30% of their fuel exits the exhaust port unburned. The company faces a choice: develop 4-stroke technology from scratch, which its Japanese competitors already have, or find a way to save the 2-stroke. OMC chooses the two-stroke. The FICHT technology promises to deliver four-stroke cleanliness with two-stroke performance. It is going to save the company. In 1997, OMC hires Salomon Brothers to explore a buyout or merger. Detroit Diesel bids $16 a share. Alfred Kingsley, backed by George Soros, outbids them at $18. Kingsley has no experience in the outboard industry. He pours an additional $110 million into the company. He hires David Jones, the former president of Mercury Marine's division, as OMC's new president and CEO in September of 1997. In March of 1998, OMC lays off 200 employees after already laying off 348. In September of that year, it announces the closure of both its Milwaukee and Waukegan plants. The company that Ole Evinrude started in Milwaukee in 1907 is leaving Milwaukee. Everything now rides on the FICHT. The system is, on paper, elegant. Developed in the early 1990s by the FICHT family, it uses a high-pressure direct injector that does not require a high-pressure pump, but can still generate enough pressure to inject fuel directly into a closed combustion chamber. In theory, it eliminates the scavenging phase waste of traditional two-strokes. Oil consumption drops by 50%. A 60-amp double-wound stator provides power. An engine management module controls injection timing and oil metering. OMC introduces it on a production outboard in 1996. But extensive durability testing reveals a problem. The first design does not pass testing standards. OMC pushes ahead anyway. The company is bleeding money. The EPA clock is ticking. Rather than building a clean sheet engine for the FICHT system, OMC retrofits the technology onto its existing 60-degree V6 engine platform, the 150 and 175 horsepower models. The modifications are not carefully engineered. The 90-degree big block V6 models, the 200 and 225 horsepower range, receive the system as well. In 1998, OMC purchases a controlling interest in FICHT GmbH, doubling down on the BET. The failures begin almost immediately, and they are different on each platform. The 60-degree V6 models suffer catastrophic powerhead seizures, engine management module malfunctions, and carbon fouling of spark plugs. The 90-degree big block, 200 horsepower and 225 horsepower models develop a separate defect: fuel leaks that lead to fires and explosions. The U.S. Coast Guard receives reports of an unacceptably high number of fires and explosions on the Evinrude FICHT motors from model years 1999 and 2000, with 200 and 225 horsepower. It determines that the problems constitute a defect, creating a substantial risk of injury to the public. A recall is ordered. The warranty claims pour in. Customers who paid for new engines are watching them destroy themselves on open water. Dealers are returning motors. OMC is replacing power heads at company expense on a scale that devours its remaining cash reserves. Mercury Marine, its chief rival, has a parent company, Brunswick Corporation, large enough to absorb its own early problems with the competing Optimax direct injection system. OMC does not. In the year 2000, OMC makes one final attempt. It invites 21 marine journalists to Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, for the official launch demonstration of the redesigned FICHT outboards. The plan is to spend a night on the island, then board a fleet of 7 runabouts with Evinrude power for a test run north to Charleston. This demonstration is far more important to OMC than most of the journalists realize. The company's future rides on this day. If 21 national marine writers can report that the new Evinrude runs clean and runs true, the sales surge could reverse the company's fortunes. The weather is warm. The seas are calm. The 7 boats depart in convoy, cruising north along the inland waterways. Then a call comes over the VHF radio. One boat has stopped. Engine trouble. Another call. A second boat is down. The remaining boats continue until just south of Charleston, when a third boat drops out. 3 of 7 boats fail to complete the run in front of 21 journalists who write for every major marine publication in the country. A gala dinner is planned at Charleston Harbor Resort and Marina. The events of the day rule that out. The 21 journalists gather in the hotel bar instead. They agree among themselves that the day did not happen. They tell David Jones that some small component likely needs adjusting, that Evinrude can fix it. They ask him to call them when the motor is ready for a proper test. He agrees. The demonstration is over. Jones summons his engineers to the Waukegan office. He asks them one question. How many of the FICHT motors already shipped to dealers across the country will suffer the same fate as the motors that failed on the media tour? He gives them 3 days. At the end of 3 days, the engineers answer. All of them. For 93 years, from Ole Evinrude's 62-pound motor on Okauchee Lake to the post-war lines that put America on the water, the company's contract with its customer is simple. The engine works when you turn the key. You are on open water. You are miles from shore. The engine works. The FICHT breaks that contract. The market does not forgive it. David Jones resigns in August of 2000. OMC lays off 7,000 employees. On December 22, 2000, the Outboard Marine Corporation files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy with $800 million in debt. In February of 2001, Bombardier Recreational Products of Quebec wins the bid for the Johnson and Evinrude engine brands, including the FICHT technology. Genmar Holdings of Minnesota takes the boat division. Bombardier does what OMC could not. It takes the FICHT technology and re-engineers it from the ground up. In 2003, Evinrude introduces the E-Tech system, based on U.S. Patent Number 6398511, a clean sheet redesign of the direct injection platform. In 2004, Evinrude E-Tech receives the EPA Clean Air Excellence Award. The technology that destroyed OMC is finally made to work, but under a different owner on a different continent by engineers who had the time and capital that OMC did not. Johnson Outboards, the 86-year-old brand, is officially discontinued in 2007. Bombardier focuses exclusively on Evinrude E-Tech. The line ranges from 3.5 to 300 horsepower. The E-Tech G2 models follow, but the damage is permanent. Market share never recovers. The four-stroke revolution, led by Yamaha, Honda, Mercury, and Suzuki, has reshaped the industry around a technology OMC refused to embrace. On May 27, 2020, BRP announces it will immediately cease all production of Evinrude E-Tech and E-Tech G2 outboard engines. More than 650 employees are affected. The Sturtevant, Wisconsin facility is repurposed. BRP signs a supply agreement with Mercury Marine, now the world's largest outboard motor manufacturer. The Evinrude name, 113 years old, falls silent. The Waukegan plant site, 100 acres on the shore of Lake Michigan, the 1,060,000 square foot industrial complex that operated from about 1948 to December of 2000, is a Superfund cleanup site. OMC declared bankruptcy and halted its environmental oversight, including its operation and maintenance of the PCB containment cells on the property. In 2010, $18.5 million in American Recovery and Reinvestment Act funds go toward demolition and soil remediation. The cleanup continues. The idea was never complicated. A motor light enough to carry, simple enough to start, reliable enough to trust. Ole Evinrude held it in his head for 3 years while he lay in bed with rheumatism, sketching on a drawing board brought to his bedside. His son Ralph held it for 50 years while he built the company into a Fortune 500 corporation. 14,000 employees held it while they assembled engines in Waukegan and Milwaukee and Peterborough. It took 93 years to build and 3 years to destroy. The destruction did not come from a competitor, from a regulation, or from a recession. It came from the inside. One engine that did not work when the key turned. In 2000, OMC still holds a third of the world's outboard motor sales. It still owns 13 boat companies. It still operates factories across 12 American cities. And on a warm morning off Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, 7 boats set out in convoy to prove the company's future is sound. 3 of them never reached Charleston. The Outboard Marine Corporation, the company that put America on the water, was destroyed not by what it failed to build, but by what it built too soon.